Hi guys, Tom here from Terra. So today we're going to get back to the Jaguar service and pre-harvest check. I know it's been a while. The footage has been filmed a long time ago. We've had a busy time at work. I've had a busy time here in the workshop at home, mainly with the Jaguar. We've started the first harvest, maize planting season, slurry season, sugar beet planting season has all been going on in the background. We've had sort of the season where everybody's on holiday, or you know, we've always been understaffed at work, so not had that much time to relax. So this is part 3. Yeah, what was I gonna say? I don't know. It's dragging on. I haven't managed to do it in 3 videos. It's 4 videos. So the 4th video is filmed, it's edited. It'll be coming straight after this, so that there's not that much of a gap in between. I've been trying to, you know, not just post 4 Jaguar videos one after the other, because I don't know, it can get a bit boring. So on the whole, I've been posting a lot less at the moment because we've had a lot of stress. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, I've been trying at least to do daily postings in the week on Instagram, so that I'm not completely off the radar. I've got a few other videos planned, or I've got a few other videos filmed, should I say, that just need to be processed and edited. I'll get to that tonight. I know I say it all the time, but I will. And yeah, hope you enjoy. Let's get straight into it. Part 3 of the Jaguar service. So now we're going to fill up the final drives, or the planetaries, on the back axle. And I'm not going to show you half an hour of me pumping oil into the planetaries, but what I do want to show you is if you want to be really anal about filling your final drives, you should look, and there is a fill screw or a drain screw next to the word Claas. That drain screw needs to be at the top, so that Claas is either going downwards or at the top. Or I'm pretty certain that at this position 2 planetaries in the air and 1 planetary is down below. Other way around, you'd have you wouldn't have enough oil in. And that's also worth thinking about if you're checking the oil and you think, ooh, there's too much oil, there's not enough oil in. That there is a certain position by all planetary final drives where there will be more oil or less oil in, or the oil level, the amount of oil will be the same. It will just appear to be more or less. Oh, and just another word about drain plugs. Copper washers or copper seals. Now you can, I'm not as much of a bellend about it as some people are. Some people are like, every time you drain the oil, you've got to change the copper ring. You don't. You can get away with using them twice. The magic about copper rings is, or the strange things about copper rings is, you can buy a selection box of copper rings with every
DIN, SAE, whatever, every size known to man. And it will either be too big or too small. So if you need a new copper ring in a rush, here's a little tip for you. Take your old copper ring, this is actually a new copper ring, and a heat source, and warm it up. And you can do it with a cigarette lighter. It'll burn your fingers, but you don't need that much heat. But just heat the old ring up enough that you can't touch it. So I would say you want about 100 degrees. I don't have a scientific temperature, but so that you can't hold it in your fingers, definitely. And the copper expands again, and it's pretty good to reuse. But when they get as scraggy as this one, just chuck them away. Alright? So now we're at the arse end of a Jaguar 960. And we need to fill up motor oil. Well, that was shit. I don't even know how to explain it. I will show you. Look at that mess. So, I did the usual funnel in the hole and pour in the oil, but the oil didn't go away. That's the oil channel. It's completely melted away. And it's just gotten that hot that it's melted. Magnificent. Absolutely fan-fucking-tastic. So, something else for the list. And I have to find another way of getting the oil in. Alright, brilliant. Well, incidentally, that went a lot better than if you filled it up from the normal filler cap here. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and take this, you can see it, this is like a corner piece with a quick fastener, so the top part's a quick fastener that fastens onto this corner piece that pretty much just looks like it's pressed into the pipe. So instead of ordering a new pipe, I'm going to try and take the filler cap from here and put it down here. Oh, sorry. And put it down here. We'll find somewhere, or we'll build a little fitting for it that it'll be, that it'll be not just dangling around. Right, we are in the service room. Above the radiator box, we've got the two filters. Be careful. These toggles here, if you break them, you can't order them separate. You can't order them separate from Claas, and you cannot order them separate from Donaldson, which I believe these are Donaldson filter housings. So, be careful. Here up the top here. Here's a broken one. And here is one at the top that is also broken. Ah, Jesus, shut the bed.
He just shit everywhere.
Not sure if you can see just how much shit is in there. Now I've got the safety filters, or the secondary filters, put in. And just a little tip, these main filters are sometimes quite hard to get in, and you're not sure if you've got them in or not, and you might have trouble then getting the lid on. So what I do is not right now. So what I do is take a bit of silicone oil and just lightly cover the outside here with silicone oil and a little bit on the inside, so that they just slip into place better. Don't go crazy and don't cover it in grease or anything. Just a little bit of silicone oil and you should be alright. While we're here in the service room, we need to check a few other things. The first thing is obviously the automatic greaser. Please do not be tempted to open up this at the top. Hang on, I've got the plate here. I'll get that out of the way. Don't take the top off it and fill it full of grease from the top. I know you think it's better and it goes quicker, but a tiny sand grain getting pushed into these grease blocks will cause somebody a massive headache. What we're looking for here is any leaks. Usually you will get a code if there's a leak, but not always. The main grease lines go behind the chute, or behind the main cone of the chute, so have a feel down there, make sure there's nothing. This is one of the sensors that's defect that we've got to repair. Otherwise, it'd be worth looking to see. It'd be worth looking to see if this is all correct. It's worth looking to see if the rats have been in here, because there are a lot of cables, a lot of like your camera cables coming from the Proficam. The patch box is pretty much where everything goes over, and the main vehicle cables. If you've got the silage additive system from Schaumann, you will have the injector here. That's this thing. So you've got additive pipes, you've got cables going to that. The adjustment for the accelerator, check the cable. Often not, you can see here this cable's not secured as it was supposed to be. Usually you'll have one quick attacher and it's broken off. Usually you'll have one here and another one somewhere else. But people like to let things fall on these, notably the vacuum tube, and they can break off here. Then we have these two springs here. You need to set or make sure they are set correctly. 200, I think the front one is 225 millimeters, there or thereabouts, give or take 5 or 10 mil. And the one at the back, the shorter one, is 165 millimeters, there or thereabouts. The next thing is, while we're in here, and probably the most important thing, is to look for wear in the accelerator. Now, the accelerator paddles, you can see that armored hard metal part of the paddles. That's good. We've got the sharp paddles in with the teeth. These are good for maze. If you're not happy with the throw, you can put the straight paddles in without the teeth. So firstly, checking the paddles. The next important thing is to check the wear plates in the chute, and where they start wearing, away is in the corner here, and it'll start just pulling up from here and going upwards. The same is for the front. It'll start in the corners. We can actually see some wear there, I think. Can you see it? Move the light. You see that in the corner? That is, not sure about this side. Hold on. A little. We can definitely see that the front plate is starting to wear. And the next plate is this corner plate here. That will start to wear on the round corner. So go carefully with your finger along that and feel if there's any wear. The next telltale signs of premature wear is where the screws are. If the screw heads are starting to wear away, you know, when they're new, there is a couple of millimeters or a millimeter between the level of the wear plate and the head of the screw. So if the screw is starting to wear away, then you know you haven't got all that long. Okay. And the next thing we do is we look. I don't know if you can see anything. We look up the top. Oh. We look up the top to see what the chutes looks like. So still here in the service room. Another thing we need to be checking is for play in the accelerator bearings. So you need to really get in here with a crowbar or a breaker bar. Then the corn cracker, this is the tensioner. And the problem with these is because they spend a lot of time sat, well, you don't have a cracker or a processor, as you Americans like to call it, the bearings can get a little bit dodgy. It sounds rough, but it's not the bearings, it's there's a load of dirt and shit at the back that it's scraping on. But one thing I guarantee almost every year is this here. You can hear that? Of course it's broke. The bearings are shagged. I'm not sure if you can see properly. You can definitely hear it. This is something. This is something that's bound to break every year, because it's one of the few parts of this machine that you have to manually grease, and you have to lift up a cover to get at the grease nipple. And now you can see the grease nipple here. Usually there's a cover that goes across here to here, and then like a flap that comes down over this, and nobody greases it, just like nobody greases the accelerator. There's two grease nipples on the adjustment of the accelerator, and nobody greases that up there. That hydraulic cylinder is also manual. So there's a few things on the Jaguar that you might be able to see me better, that you have to grease manually. It's not much. There's a bit on the front, there's a bit on the chute, and this roller here, nobody greases it, and I earn lots of money with it. Right, the last thing to do while we're here in the service room is to open up the cooler box here, or the radiator box. And first things first is to check down at the bottom to see if anything's wet. Okay, this is your radiator, the big one at the bottom, so keep your eye on that. I see we have a problem here, and that's the diesel cooler. These two tags have broke off. That's aluminium, so we'll have to see if we can weld that, or what a new one costs. So we'll have to do something with that, because that's no good. That will at some point break off and get hit by this, and then it's properly knackered. Now that seems to have a little bit too much play for my liking, so we will change the bearing on that. The problem is this travels around, and what it does is it stops the flow of air through the cooler, so that the vacuum here has a chance at sucking the dirt and maize and grass and whatever off. Yeah, we're back to sucking off. I know. But otherwise, the vacuum would constantly be fighting against the fan for the radiator fan, that big thing here, and that fan literally moves so much air that you've got no chance. Right, so we've got bearings to change on this. We need to get that diesel cooler welded up, or weld it, or get a new one ordered up. And the next thing we need to do is have a look around here. And this is the brush part of the cooler. And I don't know if you can see that, but the drive sprocket is almost worn through. That's also very common. It's always the one on the hydraulic motor side. Let's check the hydraulic lines are all good. Yeah. And then check the bearings. They seem to be good. So we need a new drive sprocket, and what am I doing? And we need to turn the bugger around. I'm not sure if you can see that, but there's a rolling brush in there, and it's pushed onto the cage with a spring, and you have to make sure that that is actually still making contact. You can see it at the front here, that the little bristles, I don't know if you can see it, but the little bristles push through, and that just pushes organic material off the cage so that it can get vacuumed off. And then obviously checking that the distances and tolerances are all looking good, checking that nothing's loose. So something that annoys me about Claas is, and it's not just Claas, it's everybody, but look, this is one filter. You need a 27mm, and behind it, that black thing, is another filter. Right, and for that one, you need a 24mm. Why don't you just make them both the same size? It's a good sign as there's no filings in the filter. And usually, if you've got a problem, you'll see it on the black part of the filter. I just got to be careful, I'm dropping oil everywhere. That you'll see the filings here on the black plastic part of the filter. So always have a look here and see if you can see stuff glistening. It's like a mini oil analysis. And if you can see all sorts of metal filings glistening on this black plastic, then you know that something's going on. Okay, we have got both hydraulic filters in. The first one, you were there, and the second one, right there. Basically, to tighten it up, just tighten it up. Just use your brain. Okay? You don't have to yank on it, just snug it up. It's alright. So we're getting down to the last filters. The filters we need to change now are the cab filters. And these are really grotty. I've not even looked in here yet, but these are rank, I promise you.
Oh, that is rank.
Looks like the most horrendous vagina anybody's ever seen. No, I might have to edit that out. Don't listen to me. That's number 2. Right, now I said the rest of the chute is something, or the chute motor we check from up here, and this is behind the cab, and you can literally undo these 4 quick release. And you take this out of the way without knackering your camera. Now you can check everything here is tight, everything here is correct, that the turntable's getting enough grease. Here, the main bearings of the chute, they also have to be greased manually. So get your grease gun and grease that.
The next thing what we do up here is, I'm not going to film it because it's just a pain in the arse, is we'll remove all these openings, and we'll just do exactly the same thing as we did down in the bottom of the chute and check the wear plates. Make sure that there's no sharp edges or steps in the chute. Make sure that there's nothing restricting the flow of food. What we then, I just got to turn the radio off because U2 are on, and obviously we're not paying any royalties to U2. That's why I've got to talk very loud so that Bono is not. But even worse than that, I hate U2. Yeah, so I'm sorry, any U2 fans out there, but I would just love to punch them all in the face. Not the fans, U2. Terrible, terrible music. Terrible people. I hate Bono. So, the next thing to do with the chute, it would be to look up here. I can see a loose, that bolt there in the middle is loose. So we'll tighten that up a bit. The wear plates, I'll get up here. The wear plates at the rear here are the devil's work. They also take a lot of wear. So there is that as well. And the pivot point, the first pivot point as well. Check that out. The next thing we forgot, or we didn't forget anything, I forgot it. I didn't forget it, I just forgot to go through it on camera. And that's the in-cab filter. On the right hand side of the cab, it's a little bit dark in here. Here is, it's basically just a bit of sponge, and it doesn't really do anything, but we need to change it. Or you don't usually change it, usually you just, with the 6 Torx screws, take that plastic thing off, take the foamy thing out, blow it out with compressed air, and or at least once a year wash it with soapy water and make sure it's completely dry before you put it back in. And just a side note, when you test the air conditioning and heating controls, just smell the air that comes out, because if you're getting a horrible smell coming out of the aircon or the heating with the heating air, usually it's a mouldy evaporator, or that scum and mold are building up in the evaporator. If you've got this problem, there are different sprays or aircon bombs. You open it up in the cab and let the aircon run, and it pulls this antibacterial gas through, and it'll clean the evaporator and the heater core. Like I say, there's sprays and foams that you apply directly. I've had a lot of success with foams from Waco, or whatever they're called. It doesn't matter, there's hundreds of different variations, but just be the one to think that bit further. If it's your own machine, you wouldn't want to sit in a moldy house or sleep in a moldy room. So why sit for 12 hours a day in moldy air that could potentially harm your health? And if you're a tech servicing the machine for somebody else, you could potentially sell the person the work. So cleaning the aircon. It's not about selling up, it's offering choices for things that make sense. So now we're getting to the front end. That means we're gonna have to drain the oil out of this gearbox and this gearbox. Another thing to do while you're waiting for oil to run. I've got my oil running into the pump there. It's slow as hell. So while I'm waiting for that, on the left hand side of the machine, next to the ladder, there's this little cover here with 4 M8 screws or bolts. We need to get rid of that. Behind there is the gearbox for the feeder housing drive, and that's an awkward bugger. We've got the feeder housing main box on the left hand side filled with oil. Now we need to do the right hand side, this one here. And to do that, we need to lower the feeder housing. That means we need to start the chopper. But we've changed all the filters. So I am gonna tell you how to get the air out of the diesel system, and then I'm gonna do it completely different. Basically, if you go to Mercedes or MTU and do your schooling, they will tell you that you have to purge the air with a pump. And it's not a bad idea. Basically, the Bosch pump, the high pressure pump on these engines, is frightfully expensive, and it is frightfully modern and completely lubricated in diesel. So whilst the pump is not getting any diesel or enough diesel and still turning, it's an extreme amount of wear on the pump, and the pump runs a lot warmer than it would usually do. What does that mean? We have to make sure we purge it properly. So I'm not sure if you can identify where we are, but we're back in the motor compartment. And just want to show you this nipple here. It's I'm not sure what the size is called. I could look it up for anybody who's interested. Just drop us a comment. But that is where you purge the air out of the system with an electric pump. You are supposed to plug the pressure side of your pump onto that nipple. It's one of these flat couplings, similar to what load sensing usually are, but the smaller version. And I gotta turn around, careful. Pull your fuel on this side of the pre-filter. Now I've got a pump that I use all the time that's unfortunately at work. If you haven't got a pump, obviously we have a hand pump. Turn. And, okay. And if you use a hand pump, you will eventually hear air purging out around the main filter. So you should hear at some point diesel returning to the diesel tank. You only need to pump it another 400 times.
Right, I know that was a pretty abrupt start and stop to the video. Basically, I filmed this video, or I filmed the whole Jaguar video pretty much constantly, and I've edited part 3 and 4 together as one video and then just split it right in the middle. It was, I think it was about an hour and 17 minutes or something together, so we've split it to make it a little bit more processable for you guys. I don't imagine anybody wants to see me talking for an hour and 15, 16, 17, 18 minutes. So that's that for part 3. Part 4 will be coming up very soon. If you can be bothered, click on the like button, click on the subscribe button. Don't click on the dislike button. I'd rather you give me a dickhead comment than click on the dislike button. Because at least if you comment something and call me a dickhead, I can call you a dickhead as well. No, like and subscribe if you want more. Yeah, that's about it. Catch you later, guys.